is 12 noon. Do we want to go ahead and just get started? And then Erin, you can kind of keep a look out for the waiting room folks.
Sure.
Okay, great. So welcome everyone. If you're joining on Facebook or you're here in our Zoom room, we thank you for joining us today. Laura Hall and myself will be going over disability pride and what that means for us and how assistive technology is brought into the conversation of disability pride. So this first slide that Laura has up here is the title slide, Disability Pride and Assistive Technology, or Disability Pride and AT. Laura, if you want to just move to the next slide. So Laura and I are your main presenters today. Laura, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Sure. My name is Laura Hall. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm an AT specialist with the Michigan Assistive Technology Program. I'm kind of a generalist, but there's certain areas where I specialize. I really like the Alexa devices and things that it can connect to with, and keep an eye on that and how people can automate their homes and make things more accessible and use their voice to help automate their home. I also work on a leadership project with 18 to 26-year-olds. I say in my spare time, but I'm part-time on another project.
Thank you, Laura. And I am Kelly Blackwell. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the co-director for the Michigan Assistive Technology Program. I am also a person with a disability and use a screen reader that I will lovingly speak about today, but also speak about the frustrations that can come along with that. So again, we super appreciate you joining us today for this conversation. And Erin's not listed, but I think she is just as important to mention. She is a part of our team and has graciously accepted the chat moderator role for today. So Erin, if you want to go ahead and just do a quick introduction for yourself.
I'm Erin Shannon. I'm an assistive technology specialist with the Michigan Assistive Technology Program. I specialize in things related to youth and community living.
Hey, Laura, if you want to go ahead and go to slide 3.
Okay, we're there.
So just a few quick housekeeping things. If you have any questions during our presentation, we try to keep them really informal. So you can raise your hand, type in the chat, just let us know, and we can unmute you if you would like to speak that way. And we're looking forward to your participation.
And just a quick note, we do have CART available, and if you need help accessing that, Laura, do you want to walk through how someone might access CART?
Sure. So you're going to go to the Enable Captions button. There should be a CC.
And then you can make the necessary adjustments correct for size of font, contrast, and whatnot. So that's all customizable to the specific participant.
Next slide, Kelly.
All right, next slide. All right, so this slide goes over what we are going to cover today. We're going to certainly discuss what is assistive technology, an overview of our program, MATP, or the Michigan Assistive Technology Program. We're going to certainly discuss what is disability pride, going over and talking in length about ableism and internalized ableism. And then we're certainly going to spend quite a bit of time going over many different types of assistive technology and the various ways in which you might interact with assistive technology in the different aspects of your life. And then we certainly hope to have a variety of resources for you. And then the image on this slide is of a young woman with dark skin and dark hair with braids. And she sits at a table working on a project with stickers. Okay, if we go to the next slide, please. This slide highlights the MDRC mission. And I'm going to go through this, probably stumble through it a little bit. I'm hearing my screen reader in my ear as each person enters the waiting room. So bear with me, please. Thank you for your grace and your patience. The MDRC mission. MDRC cultivates disability pride and strengthens the disability movement by recognizing disability as a natural and beautiful part of human diversity while collaborating to dismantle all forms of oppression. Hopefully you will see this throughout all of the activities that MDRC provides, but especially as we talk about disability pride and our discussion today, we will do our best to live up to this as we do each and every day at MDRC.
And I think, Kelly, sometimes people aren't quite sure what we mean about collaborating to dismantle all forms of oppression. So I'm just going to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, please do.
As a disability organization, we recognize that, yes, we need to focus our attention on disability issues, but every single one of us is a person with a disability and other identities. And while oppression is happening to people of other identities other than disability, that affects who they are as a person and how they show up in this world. And so as an organization that supports people with disabilities, we need to support them in all of their identities. And so we are concerned with, issues of racial violence and, legislation against the LGBT community, because it all affects people with disabilities.
Thank you, Laura, for expanding on that. Again, we welcome questions throughout. If you want to raise your hand, put it in the chat. We are happy to get any dialogue going necessary for this discussion. So if we move to the next slide, this explains a little bit about assistive technology. So what is assistive technology? It's basically any tool, equipment, software, a device that is going to help someone with a disability or an older adult do the things they want to be able to do. And we often say that technology can make things easier for people. However, assistive technology opens up possibilities for folks with disabilities. And then pictured on this slide are just a couple of basic, what I would consider basic forms of assistive technology. So there's an image of an older adult using a walker outside on a sunny day. There's also a picture of a hand holding a smooth rock. It's an egg-shaped rock, to be specific, and this can sometimes help with maybe someone who is neurodiverse, someone who has mental health disabilities. It can, the sky is the limit really with assistive technology and how it benefits all people with disabilities. So and then this other image is of a rainbow pill sorter set up for 7 days of pill organization, and it's multicolored. And then there is also a doorknob gripping device pictured. So these are sort of what I would say are low tech. Okay, if we go to the next slide, this is just a brief summary of some of the things, the activities that we do as part of the Michigan Assistive Technology Program. The biggest part of what we do is we want to get the devices in the hands of those that need them. So device demonstrations are a big deal for our program. We have thousands of devices available for demonstration and short-term loan, meaning that once someone figures out after participating in a demo, if they want to try something out to see if it will work for them. We often do short-term loans, usually around 30 to 60 days. And then in some instances, we do open-ended loan, which that's just a longer period of time, and that's a case-by-case basis. We are a free federally funded program under the Assistive Technology Act that simply states that people have greater access to and awareness of assistive technology options throughout the state. We serve the entire state. So even if you're up in the UP, we will come visit with you, or even all the way down to our southern border, east or west. And certainly if you are not a part of our great Mitten state, we will help get you connected to the AT program that will best serve you. And if you're joining virtually, wherever you are, thank you for joining us today. Part of what we do is awareness information, and that can be through our social media channels at different expos and things like that. Trainings like we're doing today, we can either provide those virtually or at in-person events. And then I sort of talked briefly about our loan program that would be for short-term loans and possibly open-ended loans of devices. And then we like to say our program specifically because each of our assistive technology specialists are people that identify as persons with disabilities. So we are a program for people with disabilities by people with disabilities. And then the image on this slide is of two people on a video call. One is in their home as it appears, and then someone is showing up on a computer monitor, and hopefully they both are looking happy, right? All right, we can move to the next slide.
And Kelly, I just wanted to mention, in case there's any confusion, we also serve people of all ages.
Yes,
so a lot of times, people think that we might just serve older adults, but say all across the lifespan.
Yes. One of our counterparts in Pennsylvania, I love, they say from birth to earth is who they serve. So all right, so this slide has a couple of images of some favorite assistive technology. So we just want to get a little bit of conversation going. If you want to raise your hand, type in the chat, however you feel most comfortable. We want to know what your favorite assistive technology is. So, and my screen reader is acting up now. I was going to describe the images on the slide, and
I can help out with that, Kelly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we have a picture of one of the Amazon Echo shows that has a picture with a clock on it and a cute puppy. The next picture on the slide is a couple of screenshots from an iPhone showing the accessibility features of the iPhone. And then the third picture on the slide is the logo for the Google Maps app, which I know a lot of us use in order to, I can't even remember how we used to get places without Google Maps. So I think that's going to be a popular one.
The Thomas guidebook.
Yes.
That was what my parents had. My personal favorite AT is hands down my phone. Even though I joke about being frustrated with it often, I would say it's the technology aspect of the frustration, not necessarily the assistive part. So my phone, I used to have 4 or 5 devices for different things, whether it be identifying money, reading different texts, that kind of thing. But now there's an app for that. So I literally have everything that would have taken me perhaps an oversized bag to lug around throughout the day. I can put it in my pocket because it's on my phone. So that's probably my favorite AT and my Alexa device. How about you, Laura?
Well, I use a power wheelchair, so that's got to be my favorite because I spend most of my time in it. And it's something that I think for power chair users, I don't know, Erin, maybe you can speak to this too. Like they really are just kind of become part of our bodies, and it's important that they're customized. And we're able to pick colors sometimes. And so my current one happens to be red, and it went faster than any other power chair, so I call it the Flash. But that's probably my favorite. I also love the Amazon Fire TV Cube, which you can use to control your TV, because I'm constantly losing the remotes, and I can use my voice to turn the TV on and off, and change programs and things like that. Do we have anything in the chat, Erin?
We do. Jody says that her son uses Proloquo. I'm sorry if I said that wrong, for text to speech. And then Amber says personally she likes captioning while watching TV. Professionally, she likes alternative computer access technology.
Yes. Great interaction in the chat there. Proloquo, you did say it correct, Erin, so good job on that. It is a very advanced app and does great things for people needing an alternative communication access. So great. All right, we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. And I believe, Laura, this is your turn to go over the slides.
Okay, so we're going to get into what is disability pride. So on the picture on this slide is of two women, and this is from a series called Disabled in Here. So if you're not aware of this resource, it provides pictures of people with actual disabilities that come with image descriptions. So I just wanted to let you know that this is how these people, when we are giving image descriptions, or trying to use the description that they gave of themselves. So the image description is an indigenous two-spirit and Black woman standing in front of a white wall with neutral expressions. They are both wearing prosthetic legs. So what is disability pride? It's kind of a buzzword, but really when you get into it, there's several components to it. The first component to it is understanding that as a person with a disability, you're part of a large, diverse community that's been the target of historical oppression, so discriminatory things, ableism, unfair treatment, and resistance throughout history. So being discriminated against, being treated unfairly, but also fighting back against those things. And our community has a rich culture, history, and justice movement, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. The image on this slide is three Black and disabled folks smiling at each other while strolling down the sidewalk side by side. On the left, a non-binary person walks with a cane in one hand and a tangle stem in the other. In the middle, a woman rolls along in her wheelchair. And on the right, a woman walks and gestures. Going to the next slide. There's always a little lag between the changing of the slides. So I'm going to stop sharing for the moment, and I'm going to attempt to share a video where advocates and different people with disabilities, family members, talk about what disability pride means to them. So let me actually just see if I can click right here. Can people hear that?
No.
Okay, I think I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. 1 second, please.
a lot with.
There we go.
Okay, great.
Disability pride to me is the ability for me to be able to live the life I desire and for my goals and dreams for me to aspire to.
Disability pride has to do a lot with being part of a larger community of people with disabilities. It's not merely sort of a pride in yourself, but a pride in your community.
So disability pride is me being proud of who I am, which is a highly political thing in this day and age and just political surroundings. To say you're disabled and proud, people don't really understand what that means. People think it means that you're okay with yourself, and yes, that's part of it, but it also means like not only am I okay about who I am, I'm also connected to a community. I'm also connected and all about creating a space where I can just be myself without barriers in society.
Disability pride in my daughter's life has meant to me has been watching her discover and develop a respect and an acceptance and a sense of being proud of not proud of how she's different from people, but proud because she's different from people. It's easy for, like in this world, for people to marginalize. What we have done as a society is marginalized and oppressed people with differences because we would rather not see people with differences, and people with physical disabilities especially make people who don't have physical disabilities uncomfortable. So
Having a good sense of who you are, of your disability and feeling comfortable with that, and having a good sense of your community and feeling kind of a oneness with other people in the disability community and understanding the disability culture and history.
So disability pride for me is really, correcting society about disability, because society looks at disability as something negative and something that to overcome. Like I can overcome my race, it's impossible. So I, in Sins and Valley and Hip Hop, and a lot of other cool organizations and art organizations are trying to flip that and say there's disability pride that's out there, knowing your history, knowing that we have arts, that we make music. It's not all about thinking about disability, but if a musician with a disability has a song, I think that's just disabled pride because he or she has a disability and he's doing his artwork, so that's pride right there. So that's disability pride for me.
It's sort of a way of life, right? It's a way of carrying yourself and a way of rejecting stigma.
And it's just me being able to identify as a person with a disability without feeling the shame and guilt that I may not fit mainstream society.
So for me, it's really played a big role in getting really comfortable with myself besides just being Latina, besides just being a woman. It's really helped me be comfortable with being disabled, and then also incorporate that into my identity and be able to deliver that and share that and be proud of that with other people, and then use that pride for power.
What's important about pride and why one ought to have it has a lot to do with empowerment, because I think that one of the most fundamental ways in which our society maintains a system of oppression or of political domination of people with disabilities has a lot to do with pity. Because pity has everything to do with having low expectations for people with disabilities, and it has everything to do with not sort of what is essential to the notion of pity to me. And so pride, or disability pride, is a response to that. It's a community's response to that, and the rejection of that notion of pity.
Okay, so that's not the entire video, but I'm going to stop it there. We do have it in your resource guide, and Erin, if you're able to drop that link in the chat,
Sure.
it's links so you can listen to the entire thing. While I get the PowerPoint back up, I just kind of wanted to start some conversation about your thoughts about the video. Did anything strike you as new? Anything particularly resonate with you?
Laura, this is Kelly. I'm just going to say that I loved hearing all of those familiar voices.
Mhm.
And I love the overall message of power that
Mhm.
is put into our own hands, so to speak.
Yeah, I like when I'm blanking on her name right now. Naomi was saying that it's more than just being okay with yourself. I think that's what a lot of people think when they hear disability pride, that you've accepted your disability, and it's just really so much more than that. So I hope that gave you a good idea of what it means to other people that have disabilities to have disability pride. Anything in the chat, Erin?
We do not have anything.
Okay, we'll just let you soak that in then. No pressure. Oh, it's playing the YouTube video again. Sorry.
Okay, I think this is me, right? We're gonna.
Yep,
we're
I'm
gonna-
trying to get to the right.
Okay.
Kelly, sorry.
So no, this is a transition slide anyhow. So I'll just start talking about the next part of the presentation. We're going to talk about ableism and how that can interact with one's disability pride or lack of disability pride. So this particular slide has an image of a padlock with a key, and it sits on top of many chains. So we'll go ahead and move to the next slide.
Okay.
So what gets in the way of disability pride? And there's a tweet listed here that has an image of a spider web, and it's attached between two rocks and a light source shining down on it. So it's hopefully I get this last name correct, Mia Mingus.
Right.
Ableism is connected to all our struggles because which I don't know what that undergirds, am I saying that right?
Mhm.
Notions of whose bodies are considered valuable, desirable, and disposable.
So I really feel like the important part of that is I don't really understand undergirds. I think it means like all encompassing. It encompasses all of our ideas.
Laura, you cut out.
Am I back?
Yes, you are.
I just said I'm not quite sure of the word undergirding either. I think it may mean that it just encompasses all of our ideas about whose bodies are valuable, desirable, and disposable. And when you think about our attitudes toward society's attitudes toward disability, thinking about having a disability themselves, and just the lack of services, the lack of access, all of that kind of is included in ableism, in addition to attitudes and stigma and just everyday things, lack of
Yes.
access.
Attitudes is huge when it comes to ableism. Discrimination is certainly prevalent in ableism. So now if we shift to the next slide, there's internal ableism. And I would say I became more familiar with internal ableism myself, maybe about 5 or so years ago, and not even understanding that some of my own beliefs, behaviors, and what have you, were internalized ableism. So internalized ableism can show up in a variety of ways, and some of those are listed here. A self-hatred of how one looks and acts, a self-doubt about one's abilities, worth, and goodness, feeling the need to be very pleasant and not be that that non-difficult person, the never demanding, to have your power sort of shy away. Not asking for accommodations can be an internalized ableist. I'm losing my words here. Sorry, I've got jaws in my ear. You feel the need to assimilate, to sort of prove them wrong. And then in turn, you're taking on more tasks, and that can become harmful. You become isolated because you're not one of those people. You don't want to belong to a particular group. And then also internalized ableism can be not using the assistive technology that you need to be your best, most authentic self. And that could also mean not using psychologists, psychiatrists, or the medications needed. And then the image on this slide is of an individual that is a shadowy image of an individual deep in thought. All right, we can go on to the next slide.
So in these slides, we're going to talk a little bit about something that we call inspiration porn. And inspiration porn was a term that a comedian named Stella Young used when she was talking about how people see her as a person with a disability. So if I were going to define it, it's portraying people with disabilities as inspirational solely or part on the basis of their disability. So Stella Young was saying that, you know, she won an award as a kid, and her parents, you know, said, well, that's really great that she won an award, but she hasn't really done anything to achieve that award. So it's people feeling inspirational just on the basis of you having a disability and living your life. And Stella purposely used that term porn, which can be off-putting, because in both sexual and inspiration porn, people with disabilities are objectified for the benefit of others. So in this case, non-disabled individuals may think that that they benefit from comparing themselves to those with disabilities. So to give an example, one, I've seen those billboards along the highway that say perseverance with a person in a wheelchair in a graduation cap. And when I see that, I just think, look, because what it's meant to really saying is, if this person can do it, you can do it too. And really all this person is doing is going to school and living their life. And it's using that person with a disability and objectifying them in a way that is supposed to somehow motivate other people. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about inspiration porn in the next slide too. So this is another quote that I love from Stella. Another common piece of inspiration porn that we often see is a person with a disability, and the quote, "The only disability in life is a bad attitude." And Stella says, the reason that's bullshit is because no amount of smiling at a flight of stairs has ever made it turn into a ramp. No amount of standing in the middle of a bookshelf and radiating positive attitude is going to turn all those books into braille. So when people say, you know, the only disability in life is a bad attitude, they're putting it back on the person with the disability, which is ableist in itself. Because um, part of my internalized ableism, when I get in a really low point and I'm feeling internalized ableism, is that I feel like the problem is my disability, not all of the barriers in society that are making things hard. And so, as Stella said, you can have the best attitude in the world, but if nobody is making any changes to these societal barriers, structural barriers, you know, all these things that are ableism, it doesn't do us any good.
And I would just
And
like
we
to add, Laura, the video for Stella Young is linked in the resource guide. I highly recommend if you have not seen it. It's about 9-10 minutes in length. It is wonderful. And Stella, unfortunately, she's no longer on this earth, but her legacy will definitely live on. Wonderful TED Talk video.
And so the way that I feel like ableism and internalized ableism connects with assistive technology is that people see assistive technology as something maybe shameful. You know, there are people who would rather wait to use a wheelchair until they absolutely have to, or see that as some sign of defeat or giving in, or rather than seeing it as a tool to help you live as independently as possible or interdependently with others and do what you want to do. And so by the time that people get to assistive technology, they've missed out on a whole period of their life where things could have been easier, possibly with the use of assistive technology earlier, instead of waiting until it was like no other option. Does that make sense to everyone, I hope? So we like to say that AT is a right and not something special. And there is no shame in using or asking for assistive technology. We have another video which is linked on your resource guide. I don't think we're going to have time to go through it today. Maybe we can at the end if there's time. And it's entitled Ambulatory Wheelchair Users Exist. And this is by a woman named Annie Elaney, who is a ambulatory wheelchair user. People are also starting to use the term dynamic wheelchair user if they're also ambulatory, which I find
Ooh, I
is
like
a
that.
really a really cool use of the term. And Annie, you know, while I can explain what it's like for me using a wheelchair all the time, Annie goes through a lot of the ableism that she experiences as someone who walks but also uses a wheelchair. So getting nasty notes left on her car for parking in accessible spaces, people not asking why she's using the chair one day and not the other. Just really making the point that there are people that are able to walk and do certain things in their daily life, and then because of whatever issues, whether it be fatigue or just disability related issues that nobody knows about, need to use a wheelchair. So at the same time that I feel like people with apparent disabilities face ableism, I also feel like people with not apparent disabilities face another form of ableism, in that they're always, I guess, struggling to be believed or to be validated that their disability does exist. So that's another thing to think about. I wanted to show some examples of people who have kind of incorporated disability pride into their disability identity and their assistive technology. So on the left hand side is actually a friend of mine from high school. She has a prosthetic leg, and they're doing a lot of cool things with prosthetics and orthotics now, where you can customize them and get cool designs. And she got the Wonder Woman socket So this is her standing with her socket and her prosthetic. The next picture on the slide is of a couple of ostomy bags, and one says shit happens and the other one says my other bag's a Gucci. I just love that humor. It's ostomy bags are often really hard for people that have to start wearing them in public and getting used to having that in public, and being able to show that kind of pride, I think just really put a smile on my face when I found that. There is a picture underneath that of a young boy's hearing aids customized with the characters from Toy Story, and also he's got a Hulk hearing aid on one ear. So
I love
that's
it.
something that can be customized. There's another socket for a prosthetic that's Scooby-Doo, which is pretty cool. And then we have a picture of a power wheelchair, maybe it's a manual wheelchair, I can't quite tell. Power wheelchair that's all decked out in zebra colors and purple. And I don't know who owns that wheelchair, but it makes me want to know them. So those are just some examples of how people have incorporated disability pride into their identity and also into the assistive technology they use. And I think that's a really important piece of disability culture too. So how do you get to the point where you can have disability pride and use your assistive technology with pride? I think it really comes from practice. And we like to use a quote by Laura Hershey, who's a poet who is also no longer with us. And in her poem, You Get Proud by Practicing, she says, remember, you weren't the one who made you ashamed, but you are the one who can make you proud. Just practice. Practice until you get proud. And once you are proud, keep practicing so you won't forget. You get proud by practicing. And again, that's by Laura Hershey. Okay, Kelly.
All right, so now we're going to talk specifically about assistive technology and the different areas in which you could use different assistive technology. So this first slide that we have here are AT devices for everyday use while away from home. And the image on this slide is of a South Asian person who's taking notes while at a meeting. And for some reason, again, if you want to just tell me some of the stuff that's on the slide, I can go in detail about it, Laura.
That's all that was on that slide,
Okay.
actually.
All right.
So we're on to the next slide, which is AT for traveling.
Okay, so AT for travel. And these are just some, we're just scratching the surface of different things available. As I mentioned, even in our device inventory, we have thousands of items, and you can request demonstrations right from our website. Again, that is linked in our resource sheet. One of my favorites is the swivel seat that's pictured here on the slide. It allows for a 360-degree rotation. So think of, and we do have different sized ones. With how car seats are made, some of them have sort of the edges that lift up, and it's literally more like a bucket seat. So the bigger one doesn't necessarily fit so comfortably on that design, but you can use them in your car. You could also use them even at a dining room table, quite honestly. But if someone has difficulty with moving their legs or just positioning, this is a really inexpensive way to incorporate assistive technology. It makes it a little bit easier for more mobility. Another one is there's an image of an individual using a car caddy device to get in and out of a car. This is a nylon strap with a couple of different hooks to secure it into place, and it has a plastic handle, and it just provides a more sturdy way to get in and out of a vehicle more safely. And if you needed to, it could be something that you could throw into a backpack, a purse, whatever. It's pretty portable. And then another image is of what we call the handy bar. And this one is a little bit harder to describe, but it fits into certain doors on vehicles, and it helps provide that leverage that is needed to get up from a seated position, especially if you're in a lower vehicle. It can be especially difficult to get out of a vehicle. So this provides another way to do that. And it actually, for safety purposes, if someone found themselves in a situation where they would need to break the window, you could actually use it for that too. And then the Apple Watch or any kind of GPS watch. The Apple Watch is pictured here though, and it can definitely help with turn-by-turn navigation. So we used to have a coworker that would explain that when she was driving, she would use her Apple Watch as a means to, when it would vibrate, because it would announce the turn-by-turn directions, but the watch would also vibrate as it was like, hey, it's coming up that where you need to turn. So it was an extra added notifier for the turn-by-turn navigation. I don't always wear the Apple Watch, but when I was wearing it, what I did like about it, I would have certain notifications turned on and others turned off. So I wasn't constantly being distracted by, oh, I've got an email, or, oh, I've got this. So it was, I think I just had text messages. So I could just quick look and then get back to what I was doing. So that is another useful part of AT. And more specifically, the Apple Watch does have fall detection built into it. So if individuals have a disability where falling is a concern, it does have that feature built in as well. Are there any questions before moving on to the next slide about anything that's pictured here? Okay, we can go ahead and move to the next slide.
Okay, we are there.
All right. So here we have assistive technology for school or work, and pictured on the slide is one of my favorite pieces of AT. I can't necessarily use it now because my vision has progressed, but when I was in college many moons ago, I wish I would have had this tool available. The Live Scribe, it's a pen that has a microphone speaker component in it. And you can think of taking notes the old-fashioned way with a recorder, but you can do that in combination with a tablet or a physical tablet, like a writing tablet, but also now you can pair it with your iPad and things like that. So that's one of the things that's pictured here. It's great for meetings. If you want to physically take notes, you can do as many or as few as needed, whatever works best for you. And then you have the recording to go back and figure out meeting details and things like that. There's the talking photo album listed here. It can be helpful for individuals who might experience memory challenges, or someone like myself who is not able to see details in photographs. The talking photo album allows you to put messages with each photo. So that can be helpful. And then there's a screenshot here of the Forest app. I know that was one, Laura, that you were using some time ago. I don't know if you still use it, but it's a great concept of helping keep on track with tasks and things.
Yeah, do you want me to talk just about it
Yeah.
briefly? So basically it is an app that uses something called the Pomodoro technique, which is you work for 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, and after 4 25-minute intervals, you take a 15-minute break, which helps me really stay on task because sometimes I feel overwhelmed and I just don't know where to start. What I really like about this app is every time you work your 25 minutes or whatever interval, you grow a virtual tree in your virtual forest on the app. But what's really cool is when you work so many intervals, you're also gaining these tokens or coins on the app that allow you to donate them to an organization that plants actual trees. So just a really cool concept and a way for me to
Yeah.
feel like not only am I getting stuff done, but I'm kind of contributing too.
Absolutely. And then other things that are pictured on here are the time tracker, which is a visual time tracking device that can help people stay on task, transitioning from task to task, especially. And then there's a fidget, which I don't know what that's saying.
It's a pea pod.
Peapod. Okay. I was like, oh, I don't know what my screen reader is saying. And then there's a picture, an image of an iPhone using the virtual assistant, and I use that a lot to set timers, to set reminders, similar to how I would use my Alexa device. And Laura, I know it's not on the slide, but similar to, I just wanted to make mention, and it is linked in the resource sheet. Laura actually has been using the Remarkable tablet, and it's a pretty slick device. So
Yeah.
if you all are interested in a demo of that, or either the Rocketbook as well, similar, all note-taking tools, they're pretty slick.
Yeah, they're kind of like allow you to write on a tablet and then have your notes saved from the tablet. So very cool. Keeps me from having sticky notes everywhere. Did we talk about the time tracker? Kelly, do you want me to mention
Just that it
one?
was a visual,
Yep.
it especially helps for transitioning tasks.
Next slide.
Yep. All right. Do you want to go over this one, Laura? or do you
Sure.
want me to? Okay.
So we've got some AT for dining out, which is another place that you could practice using AT, is when you're traveling and out and about. We have a YouTube video of something called the Liftware Steady. Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna have time to watch it today, but Liftware is a device that has a gyroscope type mechanism in it that no matter what way you turn the spoon, will keep it level. And so this is very helpful for people with certain types of tremors to eat. And there are attachments like a fork and a spoon and things, different attachments to put on that. The second picture on the slide is just of some built up utensils like a toothbrush, a pen, a highlighter, a fork, which you can use with some close cell tubing. This is stuff that you can buy at a craft store, on Amazon. And the nice thing about it is it comes in different widths, and you can also cut it to size to fit what you like.
I would just like to add, Laura, that we love do-it-yourself or DIY
Yes.
AT. So
so this
whatever
is
works.
very easy do it yourself. They do sell built up silverware and things, but this is a much cheaper way to do it. Another picture on the slide is of a pocket magnifier. So it's about the size of a credit card, and you could take it with you when you're trying to read menus and just put it over the text to enlarge it. We have a icon for the KNFB reader, which is an app for people who have visual disabilities to help them read. Kelly, if you want to go over any of that after I go through
Sure.
the last picture, let me know. And then we have like a basic kind of tumbler with a straw. For a lot of people drinking out of cups, it's not easy, or they need a certain grip, or I need a handle and something to kind of slow down the flow. So these kind of cups are really helpful for me outside of the house. I bring my own with me.
And Laura mentioned the KNFB reader pictured here. And actually, I was just thinking about it. I don't know if this one is being made any longer. It was pretty expensive when it first came out, but the scope of what it can do is great. They now have a variety of apps that are very similar to this one, but the basic idea behind this kind of technology is that it uses OCR, or optical character recognition technology, so that it takes whatever text it's looking at. It has to be pretty much typed text. They do some handwriting things, but I question how accurate those are. But the whole idea is that it takes this text and then will read it out loud, so that someone like myself who has a visual disability can then have access to that specific information.
I'm gonna go to the next slide. Finally, we have some AT for personal care. This isn't something that people want to talk about a lot of times. But we want people to know that this type of AT is out there, because it is an issue when you're out and about, or even if you're in your home, being able to take care of your hygiene and bathroom needs. So we have a couple different types of wiping aids that can be helpful. The first one is called the Bottom Buddy, and it is just a wand that allows you to place a wipe in a grip that holds it in place. It's angled a bit so that you can have better reach. The second one pictured is similar to it. It's called the Freedom Wand. It uses a little bit of a different gripping device, having fingers on the end. And this one also comes in different angles. You can add to the Freedom Wand itself with different extensions to get different angles. And things like flushable wipes, even if you don't flush, I don't flush them anyway, even if they say they're flushable, I just don't trust that. But having things like flushable wipes, these are all things that you could keep in a backpack that are very discreet. Not that we're trying to say that you need to be discreet with your AT, but if you're practicing out and about with AT, this is, one of the things that you can be very discreet about if you need to.
And I just wanted to add a fun fact that I learned from Amy, our colleague, while we were visiting another AT program. I was not aware that the Freedom Wand inventor lived near Amy. So I just think that's fun that that's something that came right out of Michigan. So,
and I did forget to mention, you can put things like a razor in the Freedom Wand too, so it can help with shaving, or a small sponge for the shower. So there's multiple uses for that.
super.
So I changed the slide, Kelly, and I think you're up.
Sure. Yeah. So this is just a list of some resources that could be helpful as you're exploring and learning more about assistive technology. Certainly keep us in mind, the Michigan Assistive Technology Program. You can be added to our listserv, the emails that we send out and things. Certainly feel free to check out our social media channels. All of these are linked within the resource sheet as well. There is another site listed here, explore.net. And then the job, oh yeah, sorry, exploreat.net. And then the Job Accommodation Network has many, many ideas. And of course, their focus is employment. But what's great about assistive technology is there's cross uses for a lot of things. So even if you need some ideas for different things, I encourage folks to check them out. And then there is a site, Unified Listing, and I'm going to slow this down. UL period GPI period NET. So when my screen reader was reading that to me, not slowed down, it just sounded like a bunch of computer code actually. So and we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide.
Okay.
All right, one of the biggest questions that we get asked, and this is certainly not an exhaustive list by any stretch, but one of the biggest questions we get asked is okay, now we know about this assistive technology. How can we pay for it? So these are just some ideas and different resources to use to help fund assistive technology. So one of our partners as part of the AT Act programming is United Cerebral Palsy of Michigan, or UCP. You do not have to be an individual who experiences cerebral palsy to participate in the funding that they have available. Tracy Strating is coordinating those efforts, and she is great at, she always takes a look at different areas of funding. Maybe it's through Lions clubs or Kiwanis clubs, things like that. They also have the Bellows Fund and other mini grants to help cover the cost of lower cost assistive technology before even looking at different loans that might be available. Because they are loans, an individual does have to pay those back, but I encourage folks to reach out to UCP if they have questions about funding. Different waiver programs. So if individuals are, for example, in a nursing facility, using Medicare, Medicaid, those kinds of things, working with your local area agency on aging, different funding that way. And I just mentioned Medicaid as a possibility. And then certainly MRS, or the counterpart Bureau of Services for Blind Persons, as the state vocational rehabilitation. If it's employment related, they potentially could be a resource. And then certainly working with your schools and their lending libraries for different tools and technology that might be needed in the K-12 setting. And then there are different rural resources available through USDA, and then CDBG funds.
I think that's Community Development Block Grants.
Yes.
Is what that stands for.
Yes, thank you, Laura.
Mhm.
So again, these are just some ideas. And we welcome folks to give us a call. Part of what we do is information and assistance to help guide people through the process of pretty much anything assistive technology related. If you have questions, we can help get you to the people that you need.
Thank you for spending the last hour with us. That's our last slide.
Yes,
We
thank
hope
you so
learned.
much.
Is there anything in the chat that we didn't address, Erin?
There's not. We must have done a really thorough job today.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today for our discussion on disability pride and assistive technology. We hope you certainly have gained some nuggets of knowledge from our discussion today. We encourage you to reach out to our program. Erin or Laura or anyone, if you want to type our email. Yes, I was just going to say, we're going to put our contact information in the chat, but I'll go ahead and speak that out as well. My email address is KELLIE, so that's Kelly, at mymdrc.org. And then Laura is LAURA at mymdrc.org. And I believe Erin's putting that, or Laura's putting that in the chat. And then Erin actually is our youth and community living AT specialist. Her email address is Erin, ERIN, at mymdrc.org. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to our CART captioner and our ASL provider. We thank you for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and sign off.